Hello, welcome to the Daily Grind here on Latte Firm, Wednesday, the 25th of June. And what a 24 hours it's been for Arsenal fans. Outta Nørwhere. Christian Nørgaard from Brentford about to sign for Arsenal. And I am delighted to be joined by Sammy Mockbell of the BBC. Sammy, welcome to the firm. How are you, man?
Really good to be on, Faisal. You've got a really sort of impressive social media presence, and I'm kind of grabbed by what you guys do. So I'm excited to be on. So thanks for having me on.
Oh, mate, it's a pleasure. And thank you for your kind words. Really appreciate it. We're growing a really nice community here. Lots of people in the chat, lots of people very excited about what you've got to say tonight. If anybody wants to follow Sammy, if you're unaware of what he's doing, he is, of course, football writer at the BBC covering Arsenal, amongst other clubs. And really pleased to have you on tonight's show. Sammy, there is nowhere other to start than the news that's been sort of breaking today. It started around midday. You broke the story on the BBC about Christian Nørgaard of Brentford joining Arsenal or being interested in a move to Arsenal as I bring up my first slide. And it was out of nowhere. I mean, look, there's a timeline on the right-hand side. You first reported the interest saying that we're interested in him. Initial fee of about £10 million plus 5 million in add-ons. Then the story kind of evolved into we're actually going to make a move. And then just a couple of hours ago, the deal has been sort of done and now he's going to undergo his medical. Tell us about this. Where has it come from? How has it unfolded?
It's been a quick moving story, really. I'll be absolutely sort of upfront. So this morning, I was getting the kids ready for school. So I'll just talk you through the day basically.
Please.
I got a text on my phone at 10 to 8 saying this is ongoing, this is happening. And Arsenal are interested, not to the extent obviously that where we find ourselves right now. I spent a good sort of 2-3 hours trying to sort of nail that and stand that story up. In that time, a story emerged in Denmark by a journalist over there saying that Arsenal had made an offer, and then soon after that, the wonderful and excellent David Ornstein did a similar story, and then it's kind of gradually gone on from there. I then managed to verify all the information I had, and I could bring that to the table. And then it's just been a day of discussions, really, and we find ourselves, late on a Wednesday night, and that deal is pretty much there and agreed, and all that's left now is to dot the I's and cross the T's, and for the player to have a medical.
It's really thrown me. I mean, I'm an Arsenal fan, been an Arsenal fan for a long time, been a season ticket holder for so many years, and I was expecting this summer to be a big summer. And listen, we're going to talk about wingers and forwards coming up shortly. This is a player that I just did not expect Arsenal to move for. Now, obviously, we've got data experts, we've got scouts. Mikel Arteta, apparently, according to some journalists, some of your colleagues, has been keen on Norgard for some time. But of course, it just came out of nowhere. Coincides with obviously Thomas Partey, which we'll talk about in just a second. What are you expecting Norgard to bring to Arsenal? I mean, is he a squad player? Do you expect him to be a starter? Where do you think he might sort of fit in?
I think you would. I think you would not pigeonhole, but I think you would place him more as a squad player, with giving Mikel Arteta the ability to rotate, perhaps more than he has done in midfield, certainly last season. But I think what he brings is Premier League proven quality, and he's a player that can go into the team when necessary. There's no real kind of acclimatization into the Premier League. He knows what it involves. He knows what it takes to win matches in the Premier League. And I think that's why, from my understanding of the situation, I think that is why Mikel Arteta has perhaps gone for Christian Nørgaard over other players. There's a midfielder in Sevilla, Luciano Gomez.
Yeah,
who I'm I've been led to believe today, from an excellent an excellent source that and there's been reports, right? And I've seen the reports. I've had those reports verified today, and they are that he has been, or probably still is, a player that Arsenal have been interested in. But my understanding of that situation is that Mikel Arteta has said he wants a player who is Premier League ready, and despite the age, he's 31. He fits the bill, and whether that's the right or wrong decision, whether they should have gone with one of their longer term targets, I think all of that will come out in the wash. But from a personal perspective, I think it's a pretty shrewd bit of business, because and I know we'll speak about Thomas Partey in a minute, but Thomas Partey, as we understand it, and £250,000 a week, if not more, at Arsenal. That's a big drain, right, on the finances. Christian Nørgaard will come in now, significantly less wages, will cost the club, as I understand it, no more than an initial kind of 10 to 11 million pounds. There'll be add-ons on top of that. So from that perspective, from a financial perspective, it does tick a lot of boxes. Obviously, proof will be in the pudding, right? We need to see the guy perform in an Arsenal shirt before we can make a holistic judgment on whether it's a success. But my initial thoughts on it are that it's a shrewd bit of business.
I got to be honest with you. When the news broke, my instinctive reaction, Sammy, was one of massive underwhelming sort of feeling that, wow, we're in 2025. We want to go toe to toe with Liverpool and City, who have flown out the blocks this transfer window. Let's go out and get some real ceiling raisers for this squad. Go out and get some starting 11 players that can push the likes of Rice and push the likes of, maybe even the skipper, Odegaard. And in the end, we've managed to get this guy. But actually, the more I've thought about it all day, and I'm not going to sort of sit here and revision my thoughts and say, look, this is going to be a world-class signing. But actually, there is a role to play in terms of squad management. We've lost Jorginho. We're going to release Thomas Partey. You've got someone here who is the captain of his football club. He's acclimatized in the Premier League. He lives in London, and the chance to now win or compete for trophies at a bigger club in the same city. 31 years of age, so he's got a bit of experience, and he's probably got a couple of years ahead of him. I mean, it's a sensible signing. Like, I can't knock it. And then you talk about the finances. It's a reasonable salary. It's a reasonable fee. There's not much to dislike about it. And actually, I'm a bit of a nerd here, and we're going to go into some stats, but Sammy, let's not go into too much detail. We'll talk about this, viewers, on Friday's Late Night Lounge in much more detail. But here are some stats courtesy of Canon Stats. You can see there a comparison of Norgard to Zubamendi, who's obviously on his way, Thomas Partey, who's on his way out, Declan Rice, and Lucien Agume, who Sammy's just mentioned. And you can see that Scott's highlighted in red. Norgard is very much a defensive midfielder, dual monster, as Mikel Arteta loves. For blocked passes, interceptions, ball recoveries, higher than any of those players on screen. He's also the highest progressive passer, which really surprised me. So, look, the guy can play. Like, he's not going to be a world-class, Ballon d'Or contender, but the guy can play. He's proved it. And I think as a squad addition, it's probably just fine. And so let's not dwell on that too much. We'll come back to that on Friday. Sammy, I do want to ask you about Thomas Partey. It does look like no new deal for him. He was on the Premier League release list just a couple of weeks ago. What's your understanding? Is that definitely now? Is he definitely on his way out? That's it. It's done.
Yeah, I would be 95% sure that will be done, and he will go. There's still a week to go till this contract expires. You never say never, but if Norgard is coming in, if that deal does go through and is ratified, then I think that's the clearest indication that there is not going to be a new contract for Thomas Partey, and then he will part ways. I think if you look at the Thomas Partey transfer from Atletico Madrid on the whole, I'd probably give it 6 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
He was excellent last season. Don't get me wrong. He was excellent. I thought he was very, very good. But he suffered severely with injuries, and he went through 2 seasons really where he just wasn't available enough. on his day, he's a fantastic player, in my opinion. Arguably the most accomplished midfielder that you got in terms of an all-rounder who can do a little bit of everything. But in terms of availability, obviously last season he was available and he stayed injury-free. But I think if you look at it as a whole, was he worth 250 grand a week for that period of time, of a 4 years, 5 year period? I'm not sure the numbers stack up. But that, they wanted to keep him as well. Mikel Arteta was, publicly said and has been on record saying he wanted to keep him, and they were trying, but they've not managed to reach an agreement yet. We've got a week to do it before he officially becomes a free agent. I'm not sure. I'm not sure, given the news today about Norgard, that's going to happen, unfortunately.
Yeah, listen, from a football perspective, Thomas Partey had a good season last year. Can't deny that, can't knock that. He was my unexpected performer of the season. I didn't expect so many games, didn't expect him to be so available. And I think, from football wise, Sammy, like, he's reached an age where he's not going to get any fitter, any stronger, any faster, any more mobile. And, it is the right time to move him on. And judging by the reaction on the socials, with all the sort of noise that surrounds him, it is the right time to move on. And talking of moving on, Zubimendi is coming in. Now, you've been covering that story as well. Now, we've talked about Zubimendi as a player on this channel long and hard. The question that I want to ask you, and lots of people wanted to put to you, is what's it like covering these stories as a journalist? And in particular, when you hear something that's so interesting and obviously going to bang, as they say, do you ever get nervous sort of pressing the tweet button? Do you ever get nervous about the reaction that you might get and the text must just come flooding through on your phone? What's that experience like?
Yeah, no, you do. It's a thrill. Like when you get a big one, there is a thrill involved in that. I have to say, that sounds really sad, doesn't it? That you get.
No, but I get it. I get it.
Yeah, when you get high of that, but there is a euphoria when you've got a big, you feel like you've got a big story and you've managed to break it exclusively, etc., etc. But yeah, no matter how many times you check and verify, there is always a nagging doubt at the back of your head that even if it's a 0.5% doubt, that what if someone if all these guys are in cahoots who've verified the story, all these guys are in cahoots for me to write the wrong story because they've got it in for me, or something as ridiculous. I know it sounds ridiculous, but there's always that little nagging doubt at the back of your mind that if this goes wrong, then you're, to use a phrase that I often see on social media, you're in the mud, as they say. So yeah, there is, there's always a concern when it comes to that. But all you can do as a journalist is just do as many make as many checks as you can, and make the right checks. Getting information verified, double sourced, triple sourced is harder than ever because it's hard because clubs prefer to keep their business so close to their chest that they're very unlikely to, one, give you tip you the wink about this is happening, and then two, kind of maybe give you the off the record kind of steer, that's correct. They more often than not, they just don't guide. So you are trying to go around and use your contacts inside the club, outside the club, people that to try and verify as much as you can. But I don't care what anyone says, you never 100% know. You never 100% know because you're not in the room. You're not
it's
in
a risky
the room.
business. Yeah, I know.
You're not in the room. You're not
it's
there.
All on trust.
So
yeah.
You are literally operating on trust, and that's relationships, right? That's why sort of the I don't like to say better journalists, but that's why maybe the more
Credible.
established maybe
Yeah.
journalists are kind of are more prolific because they've been in the game longer. They know more people. It's just natural for that to happen. They've got more relationships. They build more relationships. Yeah, and there is you never feel comfortable. You never feel comfortable with the number of contacts that you have, because every single day you're missing stories, you know.
And football's a fast moving game as well, Sammy. Like, I have a lot of sympathy for people in your profession where you hear something, it's from someone that you trust, someone that you've had a long standing relationship with, like you've just articulated, and then it can just fold, it can change like the next day. And if you're not online, you're doing stuff with your family, like we were talking about earlier, like you miss it, and then all of a sudden you're not responding to it. You're the fall guy. You're in the mud, as people say. And it's not. I can't imagine it's a very admirable place to be. Right, let's move away from the midfield story. That's really insightful. We're getting a lot of love in the chat, by the way. Hundreds of you watching the Daily Grind. Really grateful. It's obviously because Sammy's here, but do subscribe to the channel if you're new. Let's get past 23,000 subs tonight and like the video. It's a massive help to the channel. Sammy, you may have heard, apparently Arsenal are interested in Benjamin Sesko and Victor Gyökeres. I don't know. Someone keeps telling me. But it is crazy season. The flight trackers are out. The cloud formation analysts are there, and the dogs, the elite protection dogs. Now listen, there's a couple of posts. The artist behind these graphics, now_Arsenal on socials. Get involved if you guys are watching. The picture on the left there, Fabrizio Romano, your colleague, has said, a new social media hint by Sesko as the striker has now started following Arsenal on Instagram today, and Victor Gyökeres has been spotted following Elite Protection Dogs, who is also followed by a number of Arsenal players. They are a London-based dog protection company. I mean, look, Arsenal fans just don't miss a trick. But what are your thoughts on these two? If you had to take a punt and guess who Arteta will get or Berta will get, who would you back?
If everything went according to plan, and they were to get the player that they wanted to get, it would be Sesko. It would be Sesko. But, things in football often don't go the way that you hope in terms of price, in terms of personal terms. And I genuinely believe up until today that there isn't a clear favourite in terms of who they can realistically obtain. I think if you were to take a vote inside Arsenal of the people that matter, I think there would be more universal backing for a move for Sesko than there is for Gyökeres. But as far as I know, both of those deals are being worked on, so they can be in a position to execute when they have a full grasp of the exact numbers involved. So there is an element of spinning plates there, and Andrea Berta is actually quite renowned for that. And from people that I speak to that have seen him operate in Spain and when he was at Atletico, I think he's quite renowned for that, for having a number of deals on the go at once and then going, bang, we're going to do that one, and almost having them play out in public, just so it helps with the deal that he actually wants to do. If that makes sense, you can use it as leverage. For example, he can say, well, if he was trying to get Sesko, well, we can, Gyökeres is agreeing to join us for this amount of money.
Yeah. So
why can't you? Well, okay, we'll just go and sign Gyökeres then. So I think there is an element of kind of brinksmanship going on there. But my understanding, and I'm not saying Arsenal are going to sign Sesko because it is a numbers game, but I think if they can get the right deal for Benjamin Sesko, I think he will be the one that they would prefer to do.
I can't lie, I'm excited. I mean, is there a world, Sammy, where we do this shrewd business like Kepa, like Norgard, and we maybe even get both? Or am I just dreaming here?
Well, listen, I think in the ideal scenario for Mikel Arteta is to get Alexander Isak. I think we kind of know that there's probably less than 2% chance of that happening, if that, just because of the sheer numbers involved. I think next season will be this. If you're going for Isak, next season might be a season where you've got a chance when he's just got 2 years left on his contract. But then I saw reports yesterday from in Northeast that they were trying to get him to a new contract. So that we'll see about that. But yeah, if they if Mikel Arteta had his way, it would be Isak they were signing, or the other name that I'd heard was Julian Alvarez.
Player.
Yeah, and I think they knew it's expensive, very expensive, obviously. But I think they, from what I understand, I think they've looked at that deal and analysed that deal and tried to figure out whether it would be within their capabilities. I suspect not, and I think this is why we're seeing now that this kind of race emerge between Sesko and Gyökeres. But I think those two, in terms of the finances, are the most realistic and obtainable.
Well, let us wait and see. There you have it, ladies and gents, boys and girls in the chat. What a question. What an answer. Thank you for that. Listen, Sammy, I can't let you go without asking, who else are we buying? I mean, there's long links with Rodrigo of Real Madrid. He's not featured in the Club World Cup for Real Madrid, and I think he's been left out again today. And Jarell Hato, I don't know if I've pronounced his name incorrectly, of Ajax. If we get one of those two strikers over the line, we get Norgard, we get Kepa, what else do you think might happen position-wise? I mean, I don't know if you know anything about these two, but what would you expect Arteta and Berta to do?
Yeah, look, Rodrigo is genuine. I think I haven't written it because the reason I haven't written it is because I think that's a really tough deal to do. That's not to say that the reports out there are incorrect. They're far from it. They are correct. The reports linking Arsenal with Rodrigo are genuine. I think they're authentic. It's a tough deal to do though. But if they could do that deal after obviously the striker deal, they will try to do that. I think Anthony Gordon is another one that they have an interest in. Again, I've had that from a very good source, and I've had that kind of backed up as well by other good sources. But he just signed a new contract at Newcastle towards the start of last season. So that again will be difficult. And I think if Newcastle were to sell one of their crown jewels this summer, that whole project almost falls apart. Because they've made the Champions League, they've won that trophy that they desperately wanted. For them to then go and sell one of their best players, it doesn't make sense. It may make sense financially for them, but the optics of it would be pretty grim, really, in terms of the supporters. And then in terms of Hato, yes, Hato is a player that they've looked at. Mark Guehi is a player that they've looked at as well, and who they are definitely interested in. The issue with Mark Guehi is he looks at Arsenal, and of course, if Arsenal came to him with a proposal to say, you're going to be one of our starting centre-backs, then he would run across London to do that deal. I'm sure he would. But the problem that Arsenal are going to face if they're signing a centre-half this summer, is in convincing them to come and be number 3, come and be third choice. It was like that. It's like that Kane scenario when Kane was at Tottenham, wasn't it? They could never really get a really good number 2 because all of the strikers just knew that they weren't going to play. Now, when you're at Arsenal, you've got a similar situation because in the biggest games and in the but for the bulk of the season, you're going to be on the bench. So convincing a centre back will be difficult, and that's maybe where somewhere like Jiro Hato would come in, because he's young. He could come into Arsenal and learn. He can play left back, so there's a versatility thing there. And with Zinchenko looking like he's going to go, Kieran Tierney's already gone. There might be an opportunity there for a sort of a little bit more versatility. So yeah, those names that you mentioned there, that there is interest. But Rodrigo in particular, the numbers involved would be staggering. But it's, I think that will be a deal that they could revisit once they've got the striker out of the way, and then they know then how much money they have to spend left, what their limits are, and then they can go into maybe trying to sign Rodrigo after the striker's over the line.
If it's not Rodrigo, because I'm aware, I'm anxious that the club are going to put all the eggs in the Rodrigo basket, and we're seeing Brian and Burma move to potentially United or Spurs. We're seeing Leroy Sané, of course, gone to Galatasaray. We've seen Nico Williams now go to Barca. Antoine Semenyo is there. Anthony Gordon, is a name that props up certainly at the Athletic. Maybe one or two others, but Mohamed Kudus was a player once linked with us. I mean, do you think Arsenal have got other targets in mind?
It wouldn't shock me if Arsenal have made a call about, or an inquiry for Mohamed Kudus at all, because there's been interest there in the past, and my information on Kudus is that all of the top six in the Premier League have checked in on the conditions of that deal. He's obviously got an 85 million release clause to Premier League clubs, but I think West Ham would be willing to take below that. Below that, because they need to reinvest. Basically, they need money to reinvest into the squad. They wouldn't take masses below that, but I think they'd be open to certainly a negotiation. So Kudus is an interesting one, because there is a long-term interest there. And as I understand it, there has been an inquiry from, as I say, from the Premier League's top six, which Arsenal are one of them. So maybe that is one to watch in the absence of getting Rodrigo or Gordon, as we've sort of already set out. It's going to be hard to get either of those deals over the line.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. By the way, just before we wrap up, Mr. Lay1, thank you first of all for your very kind donation to the channel. Very much appreciated, sincerely. He says, what if we go for both Sesko and Gyökeres, since one of them can play on the wing and as a two? It'll be expensive. I think we've talked about that. And obviously moving on Jesus in January, that'll be something that we watch. But Mr. Lay, thank you. Really, really grateful. Sammy, in the interest of time, I just want to sort of finalise on, well, I guess pressure on these two. Mikel Arteta's 6th full season in charge of the Arsenal. Andrea Berta comes in with that hype and that history and that reputation that you've just mentioned. Our rivals, as I said at the start of the show, City and Liverpool, have flown out of the blocks with their transfer activity. And you could say that we've got Kepa, Norgard and Zubimendi in the bag, with potentially now the next sort of, I guess, couple of weeks before pre-season to do something up top and maybe out wide. But there is pressure on these two, and Arsenal know that they have to deliver. How tense do you think it's getting at the Emirates Stadium?
Yeah, I think from what I understand, there is an understanding this summer that they're going all in for success. And I know some supporters have been frustrated at the lack of movement, and they look at Liverpool spending, City have spent, and they've strengthened. But that isn't to say that there isn't the intention at Arsenal to do business, because there is, and not just business, big business, but they need to make sure that the numbers are right, and the deals represent value, good value. And yeah, if they do complete the deals that they want to complete, then for sure there will be pressure going into next season. And obviously the fixtures came out last week, and off the top of my head I can't remember what they were, but it's a tough run-in, right? It's a tough start to the season.
Yeah.
It's so I think they've got to hit the ground running, which is easier said than done with those fixtures. Because if you have a poor start and you're playing catch up straight away, then that pressure is just going to build.
I mean, just think about it, Sammy. Like, you know, if we have all of our players in and we go to Old Trafford opening day of the season, we get a win. Fantastic. The vibes around the place would be super positive. But if there's any delay for any reason in terms of player acquisition, you know, let's say we go to Old Trafford, maybe get a draw or get beat. You got Leeds at home, their first sort of game, having been promoted. Let's say they get a draw, we go to Anfield and get beat. It is a very, very dark time around Arsenal in that first 3 weeks, which would be insane. I don't think I'm ready for that, to be honest, Sammy.
Yeah, but you can see it, can't you? But you can see the narrative, like,
yeah.
From my perspective, I used to, you know, I'm still very much a newspaper man. I'm still very much a newspaper reporter because that's my background. Even though now I work for the BBC, you can just see the narrative now, can't you? In the sort of in the newspaper on those outlets. If you were to lose your first two of the first 3 games, then it's almost crisis time, isn't it? Because I know it's ridiculous to say, but because of the coverage and because of the sort of the microscope that Arsenal find themselves in, and it's not just Arsenal. A lot of Arsenal fans say, "Oh, we get a raw deal." I understand that because you are supporters of the club, right? And you focus your attentions on that news, and if there is something negative written about your club, you see that. But trust me, you know, United get the same, Liverpool get the same, Chelsea get the same, Man City get the same. Those top clubs are under such scrutiny from us because they're such big audience drivers. At the end of the day, that's where the audience is, right? That you know, whenever there is, I guess, a hint of negativity, then it's like you can almost smell it. And it's so if Arsenal were to
don't just Sammy, let's just not. I don't even, mate. I'm sweating. I'm sweating. I don't even want to talk. I don't want to talk this into existence. I really appreciate your time. Listen, we are running out of time. I appreciate you're a very busy man. You've had a lot of love in the chat. Hand of Arsenal, by the way, has been praising you. He's obviously trying to get himself into the football world, and he says that you're an inspiration to him. And there's been so many kind messages. Thank you, chat, for getting involved. Hundreds of you, I think maybe even thousands of you have tuned into tonight's show live. Please do like the video, subscribe to the channel, get involved on the socials. We'll be back tomorrow on the Daily Grind with Alexander Moneypenny of The Different Knock, and then on Friday with Art de Roche of The Athletic. Sammy, you can be found at SammyMockbell_BBC. Any closing thoughts from you for the summer?
I hope you'll get what you want for the summer, and I hope I get what I want, which is for 4 weeks to go quickly as possible, and I can get to Greece on holiday and turn the phone off.
Enjoy the holiday, turn that phone off, and we will see you next season. Sammy, mate, it's been a pleasure. Take care, and viewers, we will watch and tune in tomorrow. Thanks very much. Bye for now.